Welcome in Inside the Icebox here on the ESPN Houston YouTube channel, talking all things Houston Astros, Joe George, and Sean Mapes. And always, today's episode is brought to you by Blue Star Tequila, the world's first and only night harvested tequila. You can find it near you at bluestartequila.com. It's awesome. I use it for everything at home these days. And I use it when I'm watching the Astros win baseball games. Because a week ago, Sean, you kind of were killing them a little bit. We were wondering if the season was going to die.
We thought we were going to be drinking Blue Star because they're losing.
Yeah, now that's the Texans podcast. That one's still up in the table.
Well, Stormcast this way.
Yeah, Astros up, Stormcast down. But all of a sudden, the Astros, as we record this, are back in first place for today, at least, as we record this, in the AL West. And they're really only a game and a half back of the Detroit Tigers for a first-round bye. Things change quickly. They sweep the Rangers. They win the Silver Boot. They've won it every year since 2017, if that matters to you. I know it doesn't matter to everyone. But even with the Yordan Alvarez injury that happened since we last recorded, things do feel a little bit more positive all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's amazing what winning baseball games will do, and especially winning baseball games against a team that was creeping up behind you. Last show we were talking about it as are we sure this team will make the playoffs? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of baking in if they do have a rough stretch against the next 6 games, or these 6 games against the Rangers and against the Mariners, 3 of each. And, well, they took care of one of it. You're not going to have a bad stretch. You're going to be 500 at worst over these 6 key games interdivision because, you take care of the Rangers and really set a baseline for how bad the worst case scenario can be in the AL West and the AL wildcard race, because the team that's behind you in the AL West race and the team that was behind you in the AL wildcard race, well, you just put 3 losses on them while you get 3 wins. So the baseline expectation of what is the worst case scenario, it's raised to, they might have to go on the road in a wild card series. Or I guess not like they did last year. Last year they hosted a wild card series, only played 2 games. That is still about the worst case scenario so far.
Yeah, pretty much everything's on the table now for the Astros. They could be the 2 seed, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is a tight race with both. The Red Sox and the Mariners currently sitting at 83 and 69. The Yankees are 85 and 67. So the Astros are behind them currently. But they're also right behind the Detroit Tigers. So they could really end up anywhere at this point. They're going to be in the playoffs. That I feel confident about now after just a week change. I feel comfortable saying at this point the Astros will be a playoff team, and they will find a way to be in there in some capacity. I don't know what that capacity is going to be. Look, the rotation is set up in the best way possible for this series against the Mariners. Your playoff rotation is going. Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, Jason Alexander.
That's your top 3, no matter what.
Yeah.
There you go. You're getting them for the Mariners.
Yeah, that's your playoff rotation at this point. Javier gets the ball in Game 4. I don't know where Blue Ball mixes in. We'll talk about him, but it's lined up nicely to have those best guys on the mound when you need them. So this is a huge series, just as much as this Rangers one was. You win 2 out of 3 here. With only then a handful of games left to go in the season, the Astros really control their own destiny at this point in regards to at least the AL West.
Yeah, because not only do they have those 3 wins banked against the Rangers, they have these 3 upcoming games where, like you said, pitching rotation sets up nicely. You have the destiny in your own hands when it comes to the Mariners. And then the last 6 games of the season are all winnable games against AL West teams that are eliminated. You have the Athletics, and then you have the Angels, both on the road. But this is a situation where, playing in Sacramento and playing in Anaheim, not exactly the most fearsome environment. So you really do have the entire, fate in your own hands, because teams like the Red Sox, teams like the Yankees, even the Tigers, they have much harder schedules than you over this next stretch run. So even the parts that you don't hold in your own destiny, you don't play those teams, but you're in a better position schedule-wise than those teams are.
Yeah, it is interesting because the Astros season is such a roller coaster in terms of the seeding where they could end up. They probably won't be able to play the games as much in terms of setting up your playoff rotation. But I think it's still going to set up pretty close to what it would be anyways. But it would be nice if the Astros could secure a playoff spot. And at that point, honestly, I am okay if they decided to rest players. Once the playoff spot is 100% secured, even if it's just going into that Angels series or those last 2 days, I'd be fine with it unless you can pass the Tigers.
Yeah,
then I want you to push for that.
I was wondering, so clinch a wild card spot, the very first champagne celebration that you do, where it's like, we will make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You're good at that point of setting things up for, in that case, it would be a wild card series.
Yeah. How many is too many champagne celebrations?
I could go with...
Because right now the Astros can get a playoff berth.
Yeah.
An AL West.
Yep.
A wild card round. An ALDS, an ALCS, and a World Series. They could have 6 this year.
I think celebrating... And the Astros really aren't in this position right now, no matter how good we feel about them. They're not in the spot right now where you probably shouldn't celebrate just clinching a playoff spot.
Okay, all right, so we're down to 5.
Yeah. That is the normal, when the Astros, I saw a clip of this day in Astros history. It was from 2017, mm-hmm. and it was last week they had already clinched the AL West. That team, I don't think a week before was celebrating clinching a wild card spot.
They might have, because that was the first time they made the playoffs.
That is true.
They made it in 2015.
And that does matter a little bit of if you've been there, done that. But yeah. I also think that just affects the level of celebration. It should be more muted.
It's a toast. Toast.
Exactly. And then ramp it up every time.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the first one there's no beer. Maybe it's only champagne, or maybe it's only beer, and then you add in the champagne as you go farther and farther you go. But the Astros, even when they were going to the ALCS every year, I was like, are they really doing this for the ALDS?
Yeah,
I was they are.
But you did notice the ALDS celebrations were more muted.
Yes.
They're much more muted than half the time they then won the ALCS and made the World Series. Those were the real celebrations.
What a spoiled fan base we have here in Houston.
It's a very funny thing to say. Half the time of the 7 straight ALCSs they won, and then they would celebrate more that time.
Yeah, it is very different a world.
Any Mariners fan that's I want to hear what the other side's saying. They hate us so much right now.
Yeah, the Mariners fans, I would tell the Mariners players, you can go if you have 6 champagne opportunities, you should take all 6.
Yes.
They should take one for clinching the playoffs and then take one for winning the West if they win it.
Yes.
They deserve that, I guess.
Just stay safe, be ready for the next game. But yeah, we need to celebrate as much as we can, because looking back in their history, not a ton in recent history to celebrate.
What'd you make of Christian Javier's performance the other night? I thought he looked really good. Obviously gives up a couple runs early, but definitely felt like in the end, he ends up going, his final stat line was 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, only 1 walk. He looked like a guy where I think Jason Alexander, again, is clearly the guy who gets the ball in Game 3 of a series right now, whether it's wild card or ALDS, if the rotation sets up that way. But I do feel very comfortable with where Christian Javier is at this point going into the postseason. It feels like we've seen signs of some form of Javier in most of his starts.
Yeah, I think the last start is the best, reasonable best case scenario that you can, if you can just pencil that in for Christian Javier for the rest of the season, you'd take that in a second.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be the super high-end, Christian Javier from 2022, 2020, and parts of 2023. It's a step back from that, but that's really what you need. And him, at that level, he is about a number 3 starter on most teams. He's giving you that level of production. You just have the luxury of maybe he's the Game 4 starter in any longer series that you're playing.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting too is then now what you do with blue ball, because he threw 3 innings, 50 pitches. That was the plan. So he's not going to be your Game 4 starter, right? You're going to start Christian Javier. But Christian Javier is a guy that, is known for sometimes 88 pitches, gets them through 4 innings, not through 6 innings like it did in his last start. But I like having blue ball on this roster. I think he's going to be really important for the Astros if they're going to make a World Series run this year because of the 3 guys after Hunter Brown. That if you can keep blue ball flexible, say, okay, Framber's struggling for 2 innings. Yeah. We're going to yank him. Blue ball is going to come in and get you at least into the 5th inning. that could be such a huge weapon for the Astros, whether it's after Framber, after Alexander, or after Javier. Like, I think that is going to be really an important piece to help this bullpen out that hasn't been great at all times since all the injuries really started to take place. So I think he's another one where he really has impressed me. Jeremy and I were talking about this, where it feels like he's kind of penciled himself in as a member of the starting rotation also for 2026.
Yeah, I think 2026 you have to pencil him as a starter, especially given that you're expected to lose Framber Valdez, and then the injuries that have mounted this season.
Yeah, Blanco, Wisniewski.
A lot of them are going
those guys.
A lot of them are going to carry Garcia. A lot of those are going to carry
Walter
into next season. So you will need an extra arm, and that's something that in the recent history that unless they're making a blockbuster trade for Verlander or Greinke, they're really not investing that much in. Cole wasn't exactly a blockbuster trade, but they invested a lot in those guys. They really do that, and then they depend on their development. I think he's going to be more in that vein of depending on the development of him. For 2025, I think they use him like you outlined, where he is basically a piggyback starter for any one of the Christian Javier, if Jason Alexander, if he ever has a bad start again. But he is not a proven guy in the playoffs. Framber, obviously, the last couple months has been very volatile. So I think he's a weapon to have in the bullpen, a lot like in 2017, how they used Lance McCullers closing out Game 7 of the ALCS against the Yankees. And then later in Game 7 against the Dodgers, they flipped it where they had Morton close out that game because they're a team that was very light on bullpen arms that you trust. And so they had a surplus of good starting pitching. They didn't have a ton of elite starting pitching, but they had a guy like McCullers, a guy like Morton, where some games they could start, but the other one would then take up the bulk of that bullpen innings.
Yeah, and honestly, I think even if I almost said AJ Hinch, if Joe Espada wanted to be really, push the limits of blue ball, and you wanted to use him, we're going to do like kind of our trust tree, I would say later in the show, but you could make an argument for blue ball as like a high leverage guy at this point with the way like if they were like, okay, he's going to be the guy who pitches in the 7th inning that helps you get to the 8th and then to Brian Abreu, like you could sell me on that at this point. So they could really use him in a ton of different ways. And his stuff is nasty. I mean, he's touching 93, 94. We've seen him touch 98 before when he comes out of the bullpen. He can kind of do a bit of everything.
Yeah, that's why I have a higher level of trust in him as versus his actual resume as a MLB player, because he just has that kind of electric stuff that you believe in, and especially coming out of the bullpen is super effective. And yeah, like you said, this bullpen, the roles aren't so clear that you nope, sorry, no space for him. It's not the 2022 team where you had Abreu and Presley, and you even only in 2022 felt pretty good about Rafael Montero coming in the 7th inning. You don't have that in this current bullpen configuration. So, I mean, you said 7th inning. If there's a situation where there's more lefties coming up in the 7th and you use Brian King there, I would be open to using him as the 8th inning guy, as opposed to an Okert or anyone, or Dolos Santos or Craig Kimbrell. Like right now, if I had to make the call, I might be making blue ball the 8th inning guy in certain situations that dictate that.
Yeah, and I also think Brian Abreu is going to be asked to do what he did the other day as well a lot in the postseason. I don't think he is going to be asked to just be a 3-out guy in the postseason. I mean, if you have a lefty on the mound and it's 2 lefties coming up and maybe that person rolled over, so you then can have the opportunity to bring in Brian Abreu to get the final out of the 8th inning. I think we're going to see a lot of that where he is going to be asked to go out there, and maybe even in situations where if you're facing the Mariners and Cal Raleigh's coming up in the 8th inning, it's like, well, we want Brian Abreu out there for a guy who's hit 56 home runs as we recorded this year, which is incredible. Like, we want Abreu out there for the 8th, which means he's also probably going out there for the 9th, potentially. The wild card series is a little more challenging because it's 3 games in 3 days. But when you get past that, if you do, you have the flexibility to use him in a lot of different ways too.
Yeah, and I think the Rangers series gave us a little sneak peek of what to expect or how we expect Joe Espada to treat a playoff game, because those games were very high leverage in a lot of spots. Even the games where they went up big early, they later became high leverage outings for the bullpen. And yeah, when the backs are against the wall, when it is essentially a playoff scenario like this Rangers series was and like the Mariners series will be, you saw that, okay, if we need 4 outs, we'll depend on Brian Abreu. Mm-hmm. Last night, as we record this, they needed 4 outs. They depended on Brian King. Like they will break glass in case of emergency like that. And that is something Espada. I mean, he was doing it back in May with Josh Hader.
Yep.
He was doing that a lot last season when they dug themselves an early hole and they had to take regular season games more seriously early in that season. So I think this is a pretty clear trend that Joe Espada has shown that he has.
It seems like, and look, if you're listening to the radio show version of this, because it's the YouTube audience, no news is broken yet, but for the radio show, it might already be out there, but it appears Isaac Paredes might be returning this weekend to face the Mariners, or potentially early next week if it's not this weekend. I mean, Joe Espada has been confident in it. Dana Brown has had some interesting comments. He said, I think we're talking about a return this weekend.
Yeah, I think we're talking about it.
Like the think part, I'm assuming that's almost more of a crutch as he's talking than actual like intention of words. But Paredes coming back felt so far-fetched at any point this season when he got hurt. And now it feels like Isaac Paredes is going to be back for the Houston Astros. Sean, I think at this point, I think it would be a disappointment if he doesn't come back with the way they're talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. And they're talking about him playing the Mariners series. Mm-hmm. They're talking about him playing, as we record this, tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah.
And that is something that I definitely did not have on my bingo card. I thought maybe at most they call him up or activate him for the last 6 games and treat that as a way to bring him along slowly. And I think they still will bring him along slowly as far as he will only DH and he'll probably get a plethora of off days in between playing as he ramps up. Joe Espada even said that when he is activated, he's going to tell him not to run 100% on the bases, which, hey, listen, you probably also should have told Yordan Alvarez that, but, what's in the past is in the past.
I mean, Yordan doesn't listen, though. Like, I think it's clear. Like, we'll touch on Yordan in a second. But
I appreciate
I mean, he's stealing bags in minor league rehab starts. He's been out for the entire season. Like, Yordan Alvarez, he wants to be a ball player.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to live in bubble wrap like David Ortiz did, but he's got to mature. I think that's a fair way to put it, honestly.
Yeah.
It might sound harsh, but I do think Yordan Alvarez has some maturing to doing as a baseball player because while he doesn't need to live in bubble wrap or he doesn't want to live in bubble wrap, he needs to at this point because I thought his ankle was shattered. I was at the Texans game. There was an audible groan in my section.
Oh, as people found out.
When I think there was a group of people that must have had push notifications on for Chandler or someone. And then all of a sudden everyone saw the photo and there was just this, oh.
Yeah, the photo was pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
And what they said afterwards was also, I would say, not confidence inspiring. It was significant was used. And to me, significant is...
See you in 2026.
Yes. It is just we're talking weeks or months. And right now... the World Series would start about 5 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty far-fetched that he would play, in any wild card round or ALDS, maybe even ALC. It might be the classic, well, if they make the Super Bowl, they can activate this guy. If they make the World Series, maybe this guy can come back, which has happened before in recent history. But
2016.
Yes, I wouldn't hang my hat on that happening. And Isaac Paredes really is the only, I guess, best case scenario rehab that we've gotten from the Astros this year. So It's also a little surprising in that way where it's whoa, this actually worked out to where it's on the low end of the projected missed time.
Yeah, it feels like Paredes is going to be back. Hader, even though he's still not throwing, his comments have made it sound like he could be back after the wild card round, potentially.
It seems like it is a reevaluation for Hader, so it is we'll just see. We're letting the swelling die down, like he's not throwing, and then we'll reevaluate, and again, in a good scenario, he can pitch in the playoffs. But there's also, to me, a very real scenario where he's still going to miss time after that.
I would bet on Hader being back for the ALCS or the World Series over Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
At this point, like if I had to pick one of them to return, I would guess it's going to be Hader, not Alvarez.
That I'd put it about the same as you, and I'd put, I don't know, pretty coin flip odds on Hader that he would come back, and lower for Yordan.
Let's entertain before we get into the normal everyday lineup of what it looks like with Isaac Paredes returning. How does it work in your mind as what if Yordan is back, but he also can't really run? Like what are they doing? Is it because if Paredes can't run and Yordan can't run, like is it a Yordan faces righties, Paredes faces lefties? Or is it just Paredes is not on the team? He's a pinch hitter at that point in the lineup? That's kind of my guess is Alvarez is in, Paredes is a pinch hitter late in games.
I think that would be the way that would work because Yordan Alvarez isn't a guy that has a split righty-lefty like that. You want him facing lefties too. Like he's very good against lefties.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can do that. I mean, there probably will just be like some like days off thing where we're talking about Paredes coming back and already building in off days from him DHing.
Yeah.
So that could answer some of the questions. I think most likely though it would be what you laid out where it is DH Yordan and then pinch hit Paredes and then pinch run him. After he gets a single, then pinch run him.
Yeah, it's almost like the way I kind of in my mind, I'm just like envision this is like, okay, you're facing a lefty, you're facing a righty, and Jesus Sanchez is in the game.
Okay.
And then, Paredes comes in when it flips, and then Cam Smith goes to right field.
Yeah.
To replace Jesus Sanchez.
Yeah.
At that point, and honestly, probably just replaces Isaac Paredes at first base, because that's the
as the pinch runner,
because that's what I'm actually most curious about with Isaac Paredes' return is okay if it's the 6th inning of a 1-0 game, you're down 1-0 to the Mariners, and he gets let's say he's able to leg out a double somehow, and he's on second base.
It's a ground rule double.
It's a ground rule double. Yes, let's do it that way. Ground rule double, so he's automatically on second base. It's the 6th inning, so he's guaranteed one more at bat. I'm guessing Joe Espada yanks him in the 6th, but that thus eliminates your designated hitter the rest of the game. So it really it puts you in this weird situation where if you have in the playoffs, if you can score early, you're gonna want to, but I don't know. It's gonna be really fascinating to see how the Astros handle this Paredes thing with him actually being able to come back and potentially not be able to run that hard.
Yeah, it's something where you just don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know if it's going to look at what we're picturing where he can lumber to one base at a time and anything more than that, his leg's going to fall off his body.
Yeah.
But right now, that's probably the most realistic thing to expect is that he's going to go out there and be one of the slowest players in baseball because I really don't want him at this point ramping it up and actually trying to leg out a double or trying to leg out scoring from second or going from first to third.
Give me Game 7 of the World Series, man. Let that injury fall off the bone.
Yeah.
Push it to second base.
I would even say just Game 1 of the World Series. I think you just let it loose because
let it fly.
Also at that point we're talking a month after he comes back, but. I think I want to see him hit first because he's not going to have any rehab aside. So he's going to be looking at live pitching for the first time in the regular season. And after the Mariners series, that you do get the benefit of time of okay, you can just kind of let him do that.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't look good, at what point are you not going to play him? Because if he can't hit, what's the point of this?
I would say pretty quickly because I do think having, a combination of Yainer Diaz and Victor Caratini and then Jose Altuve, all those guys kind of mixed in as a catcher, DH, second baseman. Sometimes one of them's in the lineup, one of them's and Altuve's at DH. I think that's the better option if Paredes isn't hitting. I think you just have to trust your gut. Like whatever we see over the next 10 days, basically, like that's Joe Espada's just gonna have to trust it. And frankly, like if Paredes isn't really rolling, still having that quality of a bat, even though he hasn't seen live pitching much, as a pinch hitting option for a Dubon or someone in the eighth or ninth inning, is still a really valuable resource for this team. So I think there will be a chance he can really impact this team. He'll get his opportunities.
And one thing of he doesn't really need to swing the bat to have some impact on the team, because what have we talked about when they go through these scoring droughts is the quality of the at bat that they have is so low that it's a lot of undisciplined hitters in the lineup. Isaac Paredes, one of the more disciplined players in all of baseball. He's definitely the most disciplined current Houston Astros. So I think even in the working a pitch count part of it, or having a quality at bat, there is some element of that will be useful. And just you got to pitch to him differently. What we're talking about when Jordan came back, of it affects the players around him in the lineup. That's why getting the news that Paredes is coming back basically the day after that Jordan will miss significant time, it does leave you a little bit of okay, maybe he can just kind of fill that slot and be a worse version of the Jordan that you've gotten for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the one thing that'll be interesting too is I know they're talking about DH off day, but I do wonder if it will look more like, because I think you have to then factor in Jose Altuve. Okay, if Jose Altuve, if you don't really want him at second base with a ground ball pitcher, so Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez, you want your best defense behind those guys. Well, that means Altuve's got to be probably your DH or in left field. But if he's your DH, then Paredes is off those days. So it might even be where Paredes plays when Alexander and Javier are on the mound, and Altuve is the DH, and you have Ramon Urias at second base or Dubon at second base. So they're going to have a lot of options. I don't think it's going to look. My guess is it's not going to look the same day to day either. At least for the next 10 days, they're going to really be creative, assuming he's actually coming back.
And like you said, the last 5 or so games of the season, assuming things go reasonably well and that it's not a complete collapse, that you're going to be able to set up and give guys off days and set up your rotation and set up your lineup for either a wild card series, or maybe if they, best case scenario, things are working out, they do get that 2 seed, that you can make it a little bit easier towards the end of the season where you're being more liberal with the off days.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that getting the 2 seed and having to not play those first 3 wild card games and be able to have another 5 or 6 days off and be able to give just Paredes even more time.
Yeah, and the 2 or 3 days before that you can sit Altuve for 2 of those days.
Mm-hmm.
You can really play this right if you get those wins necessary.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. I never thought we'd even be having these conversations when Paredes got hurt. It seemed far-fetched. I remember the initial report about the surgery was if he has to have surgeries out for 5 to 6 months.
Yeah, it was gonna affect spring training.
Yeah, is he gonna be fully healthy for opening day?
Yeah,
kind of a thing. And now worst case scenario is he does re-injure it, obviously here, but I do think it's worth the risk, to be honest. I think that's why they're doing it. I think Isaac Paredes would tell you that. I know he's under contract, but because of what you have, it might dictate what you do in the offseason. I would like to see Isaac Paredes as the everyday first baseman in 2026 and Christian Walker not be on this team. But if Paredes were to get hurt again, you can keep Walker and you wait for the return of Paredes and you make that move later on.
Yeah, exactly. And, again, going down this path and then, God knows who else gets hurt in the intervening months of that. So, yeah, I think all things considered, things have gone pretty well and that they've played this the right way. It's just now comes the part of got to do it on the field, and this risk has to be worth it. And I think it is worth it. Once you talk about the playoffs, I think that you can be a little bit more fast and loose with this stuff. Because,
with Paredes.
Yeah, with Paredes, and I think with some arms too, as far as pitch counts go.
Yes.
We're talking about the playoffs. This is what it's all for. It's not for having him and extending his career and having the most optimal use. It's about let's try to win the games necessary to where we can lift a trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, like blue ball is a good example, right? Like if he's at 50 pitches and he's still got 2 outs left to go, but he's been really, really good, you're not taking him out.
Yeah.
You're going to let him finish the 7th inning or whatever it is. Hader is one that I kind of want the Astros to be a little conservative with, to be honest, just because he is under contract for 3 more seasons. You are relying on him being your closer next year. Like losing Josh Hader for 2026 because arm injuries are so different. Like Jordan and Paredes, those are more healable injuries.
Yeah, it's an ankle and it's a hamstring.
Yeah, we're like Hader, yeah, it's not Tommy John, but like
it's a shoulder.
It's a shoulder, and it feels like that can lead to a Tommy John kind of a thing. And not having Hader for 2026. So
yeah,
if they're gonna be aggressive, I think it's the guys in the lineup more or less than it is Josh Hader. All right, let's find out who's on the trust tree. We're just gonna go through the players that you trust the most, not just bullpen, not just starting pitcher, the players you trust right now to make a meaningful impact on the Houston Astros in the playoffs. So your obvious ones are Pena, Correa are your top 2.
Yep.
I think Altuve is there now, the way he's been playing recently. Like I feel like that trust is back in Altuve.
Yes, and there's some I've watched the last decade of Astros baseball.
Yes.
So it's gonna take a little bit more to knock him off a top perch in the trust tree.
Where are you at with the other guys in the lineup?
I think Yainer Diaz, as far as if we're gonna set it as a best of the rest, because I think Pena especially is kind of in a class of his own, just how he's performed all season.
Yep.
I think Correa, since he's performed since becoming an Astro,
His batting average is up to 295.
it's the power that's come back too. That's been most amazing with Correa, and the fact that he hasn't had to sacrifice the average to get that power back. So I think Yainer is also up there as far as guys in the lineup that I view as very trustworthy and guys I want to see batting in the top half of the lineup.
I mean, I'll throw in Jake Myers too. I think especially when you factor in the defense, what he means to this team defensively. But the bat's been good. His batting average this season still sitting above 300 at this point. Gosh, it's such a different ballgame in the American League this year. There's 2 players in the National League hitting above 300.
Really?
That's it.
Arise and someone else?
Trey Turner and Nico Horner are the only 2 players in the National League hitting above 300. The Astros have 2 in their everyday lineup right now, which is crazy. But yeah, I'd throw Jake Myers in there as well, and I think that's the list. Like while I like Victor Caratini and I like Cam Smith and Jesus Sanchez at times. I think at times is a nice way to put that.
At times.
They're not in the trust tree.
No, definitely not with how they've performed in the batter's box. And I'd throw Christian Walker, who's been very streaky this year, but I think that nets out as far as I'm concerned, as I don't really trust this that much, especially when you're talking about the postseason and the type of pitching you're going to face there.
Is Zach Cole in the trust tree?
Unfortunately, I don't think he's eligible to play.
Is.
Oh, he is.
Yes,
eligible.
if you're in the organization on September 1st,
okay,
you're eligible.
Okay, I thought you had to be on the big league roster.
No, I think
okay.
I'm pretty confident he's eligible.
Okay, I mean he's up there.
What a story! This kid's been awesome.
Yeah, he has been awesome. It is just the profile when he got called up was, he swings and misses a lot, but when he connects, like he really connects. Yeah. And in his first series as an Astro, I was like, oh, he's connecting a lot. I like this guy. And it's continued to a pretty strong level. I mean, obviously not to, the rookie record for the Astros for RBI in a debut. Okay, it's not quite that good, but he's still been swinging it pretty nicely. And I think he's got to at least be on the bench, I think, when it comes to October.
Christian Javier, probably not. I don't know why I said him first. Hunter Brown, yes. Trust tree.
Yes. Number one among pitchers.
Of the starting pitchers, is Jason Alexander number 2?
Yes. Jason Alexander is the second most trustworthy Houston Astro, and it's because of what he's done the last, basically since he had a bad start, which was one of his first starts as an Astro. Ever since then, he's been, I don't know if it's been the dictionary definition of a quality start, but it's a start where as he's getting pulled, you look at the line and you go, yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're like, that's great.
And I'm fine with that. Is really the worst case scenario. There's a lot of times where you're like, I can't believe he's still doing this. I can't believe he's this good. And obviously, some of that has to do with Framber Valdez not having that number 2 spot locked down. Like I was saying with Jose Altuve, it's going to take a lot for the guys that have the pelts on the wall to fall out of a top position in the trust tree. Well, Framber Valdez has really tested that since August, since the start of August.
So is he in yours?
He's either the last one in or first one out. He's on the bubble very much because there's
he's hanging on to a branch.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of like, I know it's in there. I know it's in there, and you never know what you're gonna get with them. It's the volatile relationship in your life where you're like, maybe it's a chance it works out again.
Yeah, he's not. I can't say he's fully in the tree. Like he's climbing up the tree. He's hanging on by.
No, he's not climbing up. If anything, he's going down. There's an arrow down.
He's slowly getting out of the tree.
Yes.
He's scared of heights, and he's getting out of the tree.
He's scooching down.
Yeah.
I think it's a scooch down. And,
it's not like a fire pole, slide.
No. He's not falling out. But I think he's working his way down, but there's a chance. He probably has 2 more starts left this season. Mm-hmm. There's a chance he can work his way back into the lower branches.
Especially with a start coming up against Seattle. It's like this is a huge series to separate yourself again. And he's been really good this year against the Seattle Mariners. He's pitched 12 innings, given up only 1 earned run in those innings, 13 strikeouts. So against the Mariners this year, he's been awesome in his 2 appearances. So if you can do a third one of those, that helps even more so. Especially if somehow you end up with a Mariners matchup in the first round of the playoffs. Like that's the thing too, is like it's still very much on the table that like it could be the Red Sox or the Mariners, and technically the Guardians and the Rangers are still there. I think it's more Guardians than Rangers at this point of who would potentially be coming to Houston if you win the West. So,
and right now I think they're in position to play the Yankees. So like there's a ton. I mean, it's just such a jumbled mess because so many teams are not just in the wild card race, but they're also in a division race, and then they're in a race for the 2 seed versus the 3 seed versus the 1 seed. So there's a lot of combinations. I think we're still too far away to think about who do you want to play and what contemplate the matchups. Yeah. But Framber Valdez, when he's right, is someone who looks good against the Mariners. He's someone who you feel good about against the Yankees. He's been there, done that as far as beating those guys. So there is, again, if he can just put some good starts together and show that he still has good Framber in him, there's a chance that he's a very, very useful piece for any kind of run that the Astros go on.
All right, what about the bullpen? Brian Abreu, Blue Ball, I think is in the trust tree.
Yeah, Brian Abreu, it's tough. It's like
he's been nailed since that one really bad
performance. But the thing is, in the playoffs,
kind of has to be in your trust tree.
Yes, he does have to be. In the playoffs, though, you know how it goes with a reliever, especially a reliever. It's one bad outing. For the rest of the playoffs, you're like, ooh, I remember that one bad outing.
Yeah.
And so it's shaky. I do agree that he's been good since he's, I guess, settled in to the closer's role, although there's still some saves where it's stressfully like. Mm-hmm. It is not putting him to bed. You can't turn it off quite yet. But I think he, like you said, has to be in the trust tree, and I think he's close enough to get him in there.
Are King and Okert in your trust tree? I think King is.
I think King is. I King more than Okert.
Yeah.
But I think King is definitely in. Okert is tough. I don't think he's quite in there, just in the fact of if it is a game where, say, they pull Hunter Brown in the 6th inning with 1 out and 2 on.
Yeah.
I'm not like, boom, Okert, we got this. I'm like, there's a chance he gives up a walk and a bloop single, and now this game's looking very different.
Yeah, and the other one I can't put him in the trust tree because he's pitched 6 2/3 innings in his career, but I really like Jade Murray. Like, he hasn't given up a run yet. Like, I don't know. There's something when he's out there.
There's something there.
I'm like, I like it. It might be he's going to be in my trust tree probably to start 2026.
I think that's more.
But like I'm like okay, like I see it. I trust the Astros pitching staff. Where like
That's a lot of it.
Yes, it's a lot.
That's
of it.
a lot
That's
of it.
a lot of
Is I've seen people like Jade Murray turn out pretty well for the Astros. See how we've talked about Jason Alexander for the last couple weeks, but I don't think he's quite there yet. I'm thinking of it as in a not super high leverage, but a pretty high leverage relief appearance in the playoffs for these guys. He's not quite there for me.
And obviously, De Los Santos, his last appearance was terrifying in the game one against the Rangers.
De Los Santos, no. Craig Kimbrell, no.
Yeah. De Los Santos could. He's not in the tree, definitely, but I can see him standing not far away from me.
He can
like
earn his way in.
He's got some. I think that's been a sneaky good move for the Astros. And again, I think it's what you're saying kind of with Murray there is, do I want to see him come in with runner on first and second with 1 out or 2 outs? No. But if he's out there in a playoff series, and he will be against 7, 8, 9,
and
to start a fresh inning,
tied game,
like I feel
inning,
I feel okay about that. Like I don't want him. He's not a high leverage of trust, but he's doing okay for the Astros.
It has to be a very sturdy branch that he's on for me to feel good about it.
Yeah, definitely. He's not on the Dubon brand. Well, Dubon's not in the tree.
No, not quite.
But Dubon's light. The player I would love to see in the tree the most would be Cam Smith. Like if anyone by the end of the postseason, you're like, all right, this kid has really arrived again. But he did make us nervous the other day. I mean, that play where
the sliding catch.
Oh. As he's sliding, in my mind, I'm like, all right, the season's over if he misses it.
It was such like the you can't really calculate leverage in the middle of a play.
Yeah.
But the second his knee hit the ground, you're like, oh my God, this is the season right here.
Yeah.
And he catches it.
He grabbed it.
And even he snow cones it a little bit.
Yeah.
But he pops back up, and you're like, there we go. And I think that kind of illustrates that Cam Smith for fielding, and I think for base running, he's on the trust tree. I trust him in there. It's just with the bat, and he is still just a rookie, and I understand all this.
He's still learning right field.
Yes, but somehow he's taken to it much easier, and I think when you brought him up as a defensive replacement for Jesus Sanchez, yes, please. I like his defense way more than I like Jesus Sanchez's defense.
Yeah, Jesus Sanchez is definitely not in it.
No, not with the bat, not with the glove either.
No, that's been a disappointment of a trade. And it's not like we're sitting here grinding on Marlins games, so it's not like
yeah.
I've watched. How many times they played the Astros this year? 2 or 3?
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
So those will be the 3 times I watched the Marlins play this year. That's pretty much it at that point.
Yeah,
so,
and missing Ryan Gusto is not exactly like losing some trade massive. It's not exactly the Carlos Gomez trade, but there is a little bit of especially a few weeks ago, where you're like, we could really use an arm right now, and not someone who's going 1 for 18 on those last 18 at bats.
Yeah, it either feels like with Jesus Sanchez, it's either really, really good or really, really bad. Yeah. It's either disastrous plays in the outfield or robbing home runs. It's either really clutch hits or going 1 for 18.
Yeah.
Or 0 for 28 at one point or whatever it was. It was a disaster.
Bad. It was bad.
All right, he is Sean Mapes. You can find him on Twitter at Sean A. Mapes, catching part of the Del Ole Show weekdays here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 from 10 to noon. I'm Joe George. Catch me on Jeremy and Joe. I almost put myself first again. Ooh. Jeremy and Joe. Sorry, Jeremy. 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. This episode is brought to you by Blue Star Tequila, the world's first and only night harvested tequila. You can find it near you at plenty of liquor stores and bars right here in Houston. Just go to bluestartequila.com, go to the search bar, type in Houston, and plenty of places are going to pop up for you. It's awesome. My wife and I use it for espresso martinis all the time. So that will do it for us. We'll talk to you guys next week, and we'll have a clear picture, I think, of what the Astros look like. So thanks for watching. Talk to you next week. Peace.